Hey everyone, welcome back to All Effed Up. I hope everyone is having a great day, whether it be the middle of the week or you've made it to the weekend. I just want to thank you for your time and choosing my podcast, and know that there's plenty of options out there. There's pretty much an option for everything you're into, and if you'd like to hear if you're into what you hear, please come back. Follow me on social media. I'm at All Left Up Pod on Twitter and Instagram, and then All Left Up Podcast on Facebook. And also subscribe to the YouTube channel. Your listen really helps. It helps spread the message of what I'm trying to get out, and just makes the podcast better. If you can give me some reviews as well. I'm open to ideas or criticism, all in favor of making the show better for you. And, I'm hoping to kind of grow the show down the road, have guests, so it's not just me yammering on. I know that can't be really pleasant. I am hoping to get a couple friends on here. I know they've experienced all of the same shit that I talk about, and just experience completely different walks of life. But anyways, with that all being said, let's get into today's episode. I hope you guys are doing great. Just getting by and just not going crazy from the crap that we deal with on a daily basis. And especially in this insane world that we live in, we never know what's going to happen. You never know what's going to set someone off or what our government is doing. It's hard to keep up with them anymore. But I never thought I would be one to complain a bit about shit like gas prices. I mean, my God, I paid almost $5 for my most recent fill up. It was like $4.78 or some shit. And I'm just like, what the fuck? Because it's sad to think back that when I was first learning to drive, which was over 15 years ago, and that just kind of makes me a different type of sad. But anyways, when I was first learning to drive, we were paying under $1 per gallon, and it took maybe $20-$30 to fill up your car, depending what you drove. And, it's just insane to think that now, for me especially, because I've always driven little 4-cylinder cars. Like, now I drive a Lancer. It takes me $60 fucking to fill that car up now. It's just one of the many things about adult life that are stressful as fuck. And, stress is everywhere, and that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today. Stress sucks. Unfortunately, I am wired for it, and probably a lot of people are. I get stressed, from anything and everything. I get stressed about work, family, and just daily life. It's part of my personality, my very flawed personality. It's everywhere. It's unavoidable. Even doing something that I want to do, doing something I enjoy doing, this show, has become a form of stress in some aspects. Not that I don't love doing the show, because it has become kind of an outlet for me. But it stresses me out because I want it to be some form of high quality. I want it to be good. I don't want it to be half-ass. And, I will be, I just want you to be able to enjoy what you're listening to and relate to whatever it is that I might be rambling on about. I get stressed or anxious because I'm trying to make time to even do it. And, I'm trying to come up with material because I constantly have to write things down, or else I find myself just blabbering on about whatever, and I try to record, and I'll get tripped up on my words and completely lose my train of thought. And then I'll just say, fuck it, and scrap the whole thing and just want to start all over. And, like I said, I want it to be, in a decent quality. You know, like I said, I want it to be good. I want you to be able to enjoy what you're listening to, follow along, and all that shit. And aside from stressing myself out to find time to even do it, because I have such a packed life already. You know, like I've mentioned many times before, I work full time, and this is just something I'm kind of doing on the side and just kind of seeing what happens with it. And, you know, to even do this or just kind of relax, I actually took some days off work recently. And also because I wanted to get things done around the house. You know, they say that, you know, the weekend is not enough time to do shit. And it's not. It's not enough time to get shit done around the house when you're working all week, because you also have to find time to try to relax, and that's just impossible for the most part. And so I took these extra days off work, and that task was, you know, one of them that I wanted to get done was getting my garage cleaned out. It was a fucking mess. It was chaos from wall to wall. So I had actually had a dumpster hauled in, and I severely underestimated the amount of trash that was in my garage. And so I spent all day getting that done, just cleaning it out and getting it to the point where my garage was actually usable. And, you know, so I did all that, and, you know, that helped, you know, relieve some stress, because I'm such a simplistic person as far as, you know, I don't need a lot of crap. And so unloading all this shit out of my life really kind of helped and relieved some anxiety and stress that I had been dealing with, you know, because every time I went out to the garage, I was just like, dear God, this is fucking hideous. I need to get this shit out of my life. But, you know, like I said, I rented a dumpster, and, you know, those things are not cheap. And along with gas and, you know, groceries and everything, we're dropping hundreds of dollars a week just to keep food stocked in the house. So I'm sure, as you probably know, stress is coming in just all forms anymore. And adulthood is definitely not as I dreamed it would be, because when you're a kid, you're always saying, you know, you can't wait to grow up because you can just do whatever you want. Boy, was that a fucking lie we were telling ourselves. Because when you say those things and you think back to that kid that was saying those things, you just, anymore, it's just like, wow, what a dumb bastard. I just think back to me being a little kid thinking, oh, I can't wait to grow up. I'm like, well, that was fucking stupid, wasn't it? And like a lot of people, when you become an adult, you clamor for those years that when you were a kid and you didn't have responsibilities. And for me especially, because I grew up in the 90s. And regardless of what you think, the 90s was a great time to grow up, because we didn't have smartphones and we didn't have tablets and just all this bullshit on the internet that we do today. And, you know, you see fucking little 10, 11-year-olds running around with cell phones glued to their face. I already have to have this fight with my daughter, and she's barely 6. You know, she's always wanting my phone in front of her face, and I just have to fucking step in and put it into that shit, because she'll spend hours if I don't. It was definitely a simpler time. And, you know, anymore we just have all these fucking distractions. And back then, all it was summer nights, running around outside, riding your bikes, playing hide and seek in the fucking dark. And anymore, just to get by, we've turned into stress freaks and caffeine addicts, just trying to get through the day without having a complete mental breakdown, because we don't have an outlet, or a lot of people don't. You know, when you're in your 20s, for a lot of people, going out to the bars on the weekend, that was an outlet. You were able to unwind and let go of the shit that drug you down through the week, or, you know, things that were weighing down on your mind. And you just think back, you know, being a kid, every day is an outlet. You haven't figured out what a fucking disappointment the system is or how ugly the world can be. And as adults or responsible adults or however you want to look at it, that outlet or relief from stress is just damn near impossible to come by. You are working every day with only a couple chances throughout an entire year to go on a vacation. Other than that, you're just taking days off here and there, like I try to. Like, I have a on-call schedule that I have to do every so often that's 2 weeks long, so I have to keep my phone next to me, glued to my side. And after that 2 weeks is up, it's like, fuck, I just don't want to think about anything for a couple days. So that's why here recently I took a couple days off just to kind of have some time to myself. And, because as adults we don't really get those chances as much, we don't really have the time to, feel good. We're feeling like hell. Our brains don't ever really get the chance to shut down or reboot or whatever it is. And I've just, in the past, I've had situations where I was stuck in a job I fucking hated, and it was a hellhole of a job. But it was where if you called in or you're just not feeling good or you can't make it to work for whatever reason, or whatever the case is, if something just prevented you from being at work, you were punished. You were pointed, and that shit got held against you, and you had a strike against your name. It could possibly cost you your job down the road if that became a habit. But, for some people, like, in those situations, I actually saw someone, I know of someone that got fired because they could never find a babysitter for their kid, and just that type of work environment, they didn't give a shit. So, anyways, it was a fucked up situation, and obviously that caused nothing but stress because you hated your life every second working in a shit job, because I didn't mention this was a factory, and I am not the type that's built for factory work. I have done it a couple times and hated every fucking second of it. And, because it was never about the shift work. I've done shift work for other jobs, and it never bothered me, but just being in a factory, it felt like just absolute hell. But anyways, that's my opinion about that kind of shit and what it can do to you. But then, kind of going along with that, when you are in those situations where you have a job that might point you or whatever, you're freaking yourself out all about that shit, and it's just, at that point, it's just a big battlefield where, I always told myself those type of jobs, they were a stepping stone, because I was not going to do them for the rest of my life, because I would rather chew broken glass, honestly. But it became a point where that was all a big battlefield. You can either get hit and choose to stay down and just let life run you over, or get up and be willing to get hit again. It was a struggle that is everlasting and consuming. In fact, my last stressless moment, because, after I did all that kind of type of shit, after I did those jobs where it was very hard to ever get time off or anything, I finally got to a point where I could, take regular vacations and all that kind of shit. But, even though I can do that, it's still only a couple times a year, which is ridiculous, just mostly because everything's so fucking expensive now. But like I was saying, the last real stressless moment for me was a few months ago, where I was in South Florida. It's the first time in forever I'd been on vacation, and I'm just chilling on the beach under an umbrella with a frozen cocktail. That is the last moment that I can truly say that I was completely stressless, and I wasn't thinking about work or other shit that could weigh me down. It was just truly about being in that moment. And it's just sad that in today's world, we are so held back by some form of stress, whether it be minor or where you're the type that gets worked up and you can't let go of it. You bring it home, and it's been a shit day at work, so you get stressed out about that, and you bring it home, and you're under that pressure, and just because maybe somebody said something stupid or whatever the case is, and unfortunately it's frowned upon to physically retaliate, but you bring it home. You're like I said, you bring that stuff home, and you're short with your family, or you put off this vibe that you just don't want people around, and sometimes people don't want to be around that. And I used to be all of that. I used to, just be pissed off all the time, be stressed out all the time, and I would bring it home, and my wife could immediately detect it, and she would always just, kind of give me shit for it, why are you always pissed and everything. And it was all because I chose to take that stress and hold on to it. And over time, I just had to eventually, accept that it was just a part of life and kind of let it go. Because if I didn't, I would just drive myself crazy, and I was miserable all the time. Because, you can't control how people act towards you, or just anything that they do that might stress you out. You can't control that, but what you can control is how you react to it. You can choose to hold on to it and bring it home and just be pissy pants all the time. And like I said, I spent years doing that, and I finally got to a point where I just could not do that. I could not hold on to it and just be in a shit mood all the time. And I just chose to accept that it was part of life and to let it go. And I came to the realization, for the sake of my sanity, I couldn't hold on to it anymore. I was, just slowly going insane. So over time, I taught myself to let go of that shit, to become more chill and laid back. Because if I kept holding on to that stress like a big ball in my chest, it would make me physically ill and just not a pleasant person to be around. I also got sick of having to work myself back from that stress to kind of, just kind of, like I said, just kind of get to the point where I could let it go. And, I didn't want to be that person that was getting pissed easily or in a shit mood all the time. It just came down to acceptance. Stress is part of my DNA, but how I deal with it is completely up to me. Do I let it control me, or do I let it go? And what do you do to let go of the stress? And, do you have an outlet? I don't have a ton of outlets, but, coming home to my kids and everything, being able to come home every night and not have to work any more night shifts or do shit like that's a big stress reliever right there. Just being able to come home and see them every night and put them to bed and everything. And other outlets that I've worked on, some people do the whole working out thing. I tried working out. I obviously should, but working out is just kind of dull to me. But I don't mind doing, physical chores, and that be a form of an outlet. I like to be productive, and like I said, getting my garage to the point where I could actually, pull both cars in there if I wanted to, was a huge load off my mind. Plus, the process of getting it clean, organized, keeping my mind busy just did wonders. And because I'm such a simplistic person, getting rid of all that clutter, just, all that excess crap that I know I didn't need, or just, getting just getting the garage clean, getting rid of shit, lowered the stress level in my life. If you can find something as simple as organizing or shedding your life of unneeded crap, it can in turn just take a huge load off your mind, and especially maybe if those things link back to someone who caused you stress or a time that was tough on you. Why would you want to hold on to these things? Why not move on? And, again, that's just my approach to it. And the sad part of it all, too, is that being so easily stressed out and feeling like I'm under some sort of pressure, it just became the norm for me. So much that I was, that was my way of, the way of, I was coping with disappointment, trauma, heartbreak, and all that was just kind of turning it off, as I call it. Turning off that switch in my brain that made me so susceptible to those feelings of being triggered. Meanwhile, I watch these people that don't seem like they give a fuck, don't have a care in the world. They don't care if they hurt someone's feelings or whatever. I would tell myself that I didn't care because I didn't want to get stressed out about someone hurting my feelings or even maybe a poor decision I made. I didn't want to be stressed out that maybe I hurt someone's feelings or something I did made someone else's life a little more difficult or whatever. Because also that's just the way things are for a lot of people, especially if you work in a factory or whatever. It's all about getting your shit done and getting out. The hell with the next guy for the most part. Especially if you just work with a bunch of douches. But I would tell myself that I didn't care because I didn't want to get stressed out. And maybe, also I couldn't let myself experience those everyday's ups and downs because I was so determined not to feel that stress or hurt and eventually convince myself that I felt nothing and it was a great feeling. I always said that it felt phenomenal not to worry about this shit, not to give a fuck about someone's feelings or a situation that someone else was in or whatever. Something happened that someone else normal that was emotionally healthy might be disappointed by or hurt by. I just said, I don't care. I don't care about this or that. Fuck it. It's whatever. And I told myself for this for years, and I didn't care about it. And in some aspects, it became true. And in a more recent example, I just, I had to, someone came to me with a problem. And, someone that had continuously disappointed me in the past. I mean, they didn't come to me directly, but it was relayed to me. And I just had the attitude, or I still have the attitude just because of the situation and the person involved, but I don't give a fuck. And I just, it meant that I just had no sympathy for the situation. Like I said, just because of the person and the situation that it was involved, and it basically, came down to the fact that it was not my fucking problem because they had put themselves in this situation. But aside from all of that, I guess there are some downs to spending all these years telling myself more or less, I didn't care, and I kind of became cynical because I truly believe that in some cases, some people are truly out for themselves, so, why can't I be that way too? And turning that switch that I mentioned earlier back to where it was of a more sympathetic, caring person was just more or less impossible, and it's something that I still struggle with today. I don't think I can be that person again just because I remember all the baggage that came with it. And I was, because I was that type that went out of my way for people and, especially people that didn't deserve it. And I just went through all this trouble for anything and, for pretty much everybody. I made everybody else a priority when I was just setting my feelings aside. And I just think that if I did that, if I, became that person again, I would just be stressing myself all over. And I would just be inviting all this bullshit back into my life and putting myself in a situation that would do me no good. Because I just think on some level, I'm not willing to do it. I'm not willing to be vulnerable or basically be a doormat. But, anyways, like I said, just stress is everywhere. It comes in all forms and shapes, and we each have our way of dealing with it. But you just don't want to develop an unhealthy way of dealing with it, like I have, and it's something I still kind of struggle with. But at the same time, like I said, I don't want to be that person that lets all these stressful people back in my life, and then just I'm not getting anywhere for myself. But anyways, guys, I think that will wrap things up for today. And, like I said, I thank you for listening. And I will see you later. Bye.